We'll call this meeting to order. It's Wednesday, February 5th. We have a couple additions to the agenda. We're going to sign the lister's letter saying there's no appeals to the grand list. So we'll sign that. The Grange Town meeting, they want to know if we want them to serve lunch, which we can talk about. And we're going to set up a joint meeting with the Putney Selectboard for a week from tonight. And that'll be here. I think that's it for the additions. So review of previous meetings minutes on January 22nd.
I move we approve the minutes of January 22nd.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion on them? All right, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from January 22nd, say aye.
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 And I'll abstain.
And if it's at all possible, the audio is really low from the mic. If there's a way of turning it up.
I got the roadie working.
Okay. I can hear it, but it just all the way up. It's hard to hear. So.
Is it better now?
Yes, much better.
All right.
This is kind of loud, maybe louder than we need.
We're getting older. All right, so we have warrants for payment. We have Prospect Hill number 1, warrants 16 and 16P.
Can we do these separately?
Yeah, let's do warrants. Let's do the Prospect Hill number 1 first.
Okay.
It's for $497.50 for mowing of Prospect Hill.
And that would come out of the Prospect Hill.
That is correct. That comes out of their fund, not ours.
I move we approve the funding as presented.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Did the,
How did the meeting go last week, by the way? I wasn't here.
it was fine.
Okay.
Did the waiver of liability or whatever
Yeah.
get signed? Because
That's a good
it was
question.
pending payment, was if that was signed.
Well, we'll get that signed.
I don't know if Chris is on Zoom, if he knows if it was signed.
Chris, do you know if we got a waiver signed by Jesper Brinkley?
I do not. I wasn't not aware of that restriction.
All right. So let's I want to get him paid. So let's not pay him until the waiver's here. But can we vote to approve it pending his signature on the waiver? And then once Chris gets that, he pays it.
I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
All right. So let's.
So we've modified the motion.
So I'll make a new motion that we pay the Prospect Hill warrant pending Chris's receipt of a signed damages waiver from Jesper Brinkley.
I'll second that.
All right.
Who?
Jesper Brinkley, who did the work.
Okay.
So what I will do is I will send him. I think I've got it. Alex, I think you have it too. Somebody's got it somewhere in our emails.
Which
The waiver.
I had a hard copy and I thought I gave it back to you when I wasn't able to get it before he did
But I
the work.
thought somebody on the
I was going to reach out.
was going to reach out to him.
Okay, I'll round that up.
Yeah.
So we'll get that done. So, Chris, what we're voting on is you'll pay it once you have that waiver in your hand from Jesper Brinkley.
Roger.
And I'll follow up on
I have a-
that.
Do you have a question? Isn't this specifically what we voted on last time?
That was at the Prospect Hill meeting. This is to actually make the payment.
Okay.
Right. So there's 2 steps that the board trustees had to approve it, and then it has to go to Chris, who then writes up a warrant, and then we approve that.
And
I
it's,
forgot it was under that board. I thought it was under us. Okay, got it.
All right. So all those in favor of paying Prospect Hill warrant upon receipt of Jesper Brinkley's signature for the waiver, say aye.
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 All those against?
I'll abstain.
All right. Warrants 16 and 16P. One is general expenses, one is payroll. Anybody want to make a motion? Kids cannot make motions.
I'll move that we approve warrants 16 and 16P.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a second. So 16P for payroll is $13,306. 16 is $19,613. I didn't see anything on either one of those that was unusual.
No.
All right. All those in favor of approving warrants 16 and 16P, say aye.
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 And all those against. So we've got the public here coming up. Any updates on ARPA funding?
No.
Has someone gotten back to Larry Lynch that we've already
I did, yes.
spent the money?
I did email back to him because I'd sent something previously to them, but apparently she didn't get. So yeah, that's been cleared up.
Good.
Good question. All right, visitors and public comment. You guys want to bring up anything that's not on the agenda?
We're already at the end?
No, that's item
in the middle.
4.
Oh, okay. Well, we came because we were wondering if, so the library, there seems to be a lot of people who don't know that anything's going on about the library. I keep running into people who, what's going on with the library? I say something and they seem to have had no idea that there was an increase in the budget for the library or, and then stuff that kind of passes through the office, there seems to be a lack of maybe enough information about the library use, who's using it, what are the things that are being used most. And I did not come to any meetings on it because I was trying to, seem to me, mostly I stay completely out of these things because I work in the office. And so I'm not making any comment on it. I'm just wondering if there could be an informational meeting before the town meeting or something where you get some of the numbers out there to people, and no, you can't do
We've
that.
asked them multiple times for the numbers,
But that's not.
and we just can't get them.
Well, that's true, but if you had an informational meeting that was sent out, told the whole town was going to be there, hopefully, which of course it isn't, but, and then they would come, but there has to be some way of getting, because you just can't go into a meeting and suddenly realize that, you might be making a big investment in an institution in town and not have anything to base it on and not have any preparation for it. And I don't quite know how to do that because I haven't done this sort of thing before, but.
There's two things working here. One is the term numbers. So Paul's talking about his usage numbers of the library, which we don't have, and the library has not given us upon multiple asking. So that's just patronage, who uses it, are they from town, are they from out of town, etc.
Now, Dina did send me something because I emailed Linda asking her, I was only interested in how many individuals used it, not how many boots came in the door, but how many different boots came in the door. And that's basically all I asked her. And Dina did send me something, which if I can get my computer to work, I can try to print off about some places that people come from that use it. It was confusing. It wasn't a clear list, but it was something which I could print out and send. Yes, there is that problem.
So that's one when we say numbers. The other numbers is the budget and the dollars.
Right.
So there's a views article that I wrote that
Okay.
covers the budget and has a whole section on the library specifically.
Okay. Do you
That
think?
talks about how much they asked for this year, how much we're putting in the budget recommending for this year, which is less than they asked for,
Yeah.
and why we put less in there.
Okay.
The down low is that they got a grant
Right.
to
I know about
expand
that,
children's
yeah.
programming,
Yeah.
right? That's going to cover January through September of this year.
Right.
So that's the first 3 years of next fiscal
3
year.
months.
First 3 months of next fiscal year. Their request was for us to cover the other 9 months of rent and the librarian that they want to hire.
Right.
So that was an additional 93% increase on what they were asking for last year. But the follow on to that is in the out years,
Right.
every year after that, the town's committing to essentially that librarian and that extra rent. And over 5 years, that's $80,000. So what we asked them is, one, can you write an article for the views, explain your position? And I exchanged the dollar numbers with them to make sure that whatever they wrote aligned with what we wrote dollar-wise, not argument-wise.
Right.
So they confirmed that the numbers were fine. I haven't seen the article they're writing in the views. I don't think it covers
No.
probably
I don't think
what
so.
needs to be covered.
Because the newsletter they sent out was really more what the library could do for the town. I don't know how you get at it. Do you do a town-wide survey, like have it at the town meeting, or?
Well, so follow up. Good question. So what they've asked, how do we? Because basically what we said to them is, at town meeting, if you want your full budget that you asked for, stand up and be ready to explain why you want that additional funding, and that you understand, and the town understands that is buying into future expenses. Right.
So we're voting on the extra money from September on for that next year.
For September on, plus understanding that in following years, it's the full freight of every 12 months.
But it's not a separate article, which would make.
No, they would stand up at town meeting, and
Make
it would
an
be
amendment.
an amendment to the budget from the floor.
But it wouldn't be.
General.
You would have to add that extra money in.
That's
correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So just like at the fire department, which I guess in the past has asked for more money, they fall under the general fund.
Right.
During the general fund presentation,
Yeah.
they would say, I want to propose an amendment. And I told them, I explained to them, that's how I would expect them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get together with Cindy Jerome to make sure they understand what are they doing when they stand up, so that it's legal and everything else. She'll make sure the wording is correct. And then she'll probably invite them up to the microphone or hand them a microphone. It's like, you're asking for the money, so now explain.
Well, I
What
still
the
think that you have to have more of the town know a little bit ahead of time, because, it might they might have packed the house with enough people who want their budget, or conversely, there might be a lot of people who had no idea this was coming and would say, oh, this is way too much money, and not even know the reasons for it, really. I mean, you're assuming they'll present it well enough, but.
That's why we tried to get them to write an article in the Views.
Mhm.
And maybe they did, we just.
They did write an article. I have not seen it, so I don't know its content.
But you're then assuming that between Todd and the library, that they've covered everything that needs to be covered.
I'm not opposed to an informational meeting. I think it's fine.
Whether we get any people or not.
Right. I mean, but we're in the same situation where who shows up
Right.
as town, and the survey was brought up. I think Tom, you brought that up. But basically, town meeting is the survey. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the way it is, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't address the fact that we have a geographical problem in this town, and we may find that most of the people on the east side of town wouldn't go to the library no matter how good the programs are. We might find that, although I always used it for my grandchildren and my kids, I used the Putney Library or the Brattleboro because they were closer.
Mm-hmm.
I used young children programs. I mean, if you're home and you can do that, it may be that there aren't as many kids out there that would use it because most people are working now and their kids are in daycare, so they're getting enrichment that way. Those programs are certainly great for people who are home with kids.
Right.
So I just feel like people, I don't know, I feel a little uncomfortable with this.
I'm concerned because I've picked up things here and there. I'm Lou Nelson, and I don't use the West Dummerston Library, but I do live in West Dummerston now. And part of the reason is I did want more than a small library for myself and my children, so I usually went to Brattleboro.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm concerned about is what the players' parts were. So there's the community center, the library, and you, the select board, and the town. I guess the town, representing the town. So the town owns the building and has an arrangement to pay to the community center some of the library fees.
No,
That's what's in there, by the way, when you go to read the history, it's
Yeah.
still in there. I'm just telling you, it's still
Okay.
posted as, that's the way it works, so that's why I'm repeating that.
yeah, so there was an article in the Commons that came out
Yeah.
that I had gotten a call or an email a few days before that from the writer of that article, Tom as well, wanting to get my information as a select board member as to why the select board was opposed to the library. So there was some misinformation that was out there, and I tried to clarify it, and she was very grateful. Tom and I both did, and that was taken out of that article, because the building is owned by the town, but we rent it to the community center for $1 a year. So the select board and the town don't have control over who the community center rents to.
You
Now-
don't have any control over it legally.
It's
okay.
a private 501c3 organization. Now, we don't have any immediate control, but because we own the building, I suppose we could say, well, if you don't rent it to the library, we're gonna change the agreement and no longer rent to the, provide that lease to the community center. So we do have some level of long-term control, but not an immediate control of, leases for a particular space.
How does it work when you are, when you receive their request for your contribution to the expenses of the library then? How would you describe that process? I mean, or last year it had apparently was quite a bit higher. I remember noticing that there seemed to be a larger amount committed than I had noticed in the past. I didn't hear any discussion, but now we have this grant and we have a new thing.
Right.
And then I guess the other part of that is, did you make commitments as a board for the town in relation to the grant? Is that what you're talking about, the future funding? That we're committing to future funding? That sounds quite tricky for me.
Well, I don't think, Todd's presented it as we're committed to future funding. I don't think we're committed to future funding at that higher level. But historically, when the town, votes for some increase in an amount, like the Farmland Protection Fund, when the at town meeting, when the vote has been pretty overwhelming, then the next year we've incorporated that higher level,
Right.
to not go through that
That's true.
same debate again. So we're assuming
Understand that.
that if we, provide a budget, if the town votes a budget that expands the library into that other room and an assistant librarian, that higher level of funding will be approved in future years. So we're saying if there's a debate about it,
Yeah.
it should happen now.
Well, and that's the problem, I guess, because the grant changes the game, but only for a
for
short
a very
time.
short time.
And their original proposal, I don't know what they did, had a significant portion of it was in buying the furniture, the equipment,
Yeah,
okay,
that's,
to make the room.
And the rent and the librarian.
The rent and the library, the rent librarian and the furniture.
That's right.
Uh,
Those are the things we're eligible for.
Okay.
and I think that maybe they went ahead and did that before negotiating or reaching a solution with the community.
There was a
center.
timing problem there that I was picking up on just really randomly. I mean, I wasn't trying to
Yeah.
find out.
I
anything.
think they had trouble agreeing on something, and
There
then
was
and they did agree then on half the room. And then I think that Dina may have misunderstood because she ordered all this furniture for the whole room and then sent some back.
The timeline of how this all occurred was the budget request showed up from them for $42,000. We started in October, November, December doing the budget. We had no inkling there was a grant that was applied for. They do their own grant, which is fine. That they would do their own request.
So you didn't have to sign off on it.
I thought
They
you
didn't
have-
ask for town
No.
commitments.
You
I'm just making
when you-
sure.
We did
grant
after the
you
grant
have
was awarded.
You did.
Oh,
Okay, so let's. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's.
So after the grant was
kind of
awarded, well, actually, no, we didn't have to sign off on it.
No, we didn't.
I don't think we ever
We
signed
did.
off on
We had a
it.
discussion, but we
Okay.
did not
See,
sign off
my
on the grant.
understanding is when the select board needs to tell an entity like the town library, which is a town library, I mean, it's under some town control, that they should go ahead, they can go ahead with a grant. Is it really true that they can send?
I think they apply for their grants and sign for their grants.
In our grant policy, the exception is the library.
So they can do that,
Oh,
other
okay.
entities
Okay.
can't.
Yes.
The library's
so-
been there a long time.
By the time the grant showed up, they were in a pinch. By this point, it was early December, late November, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And like, we got to get this settled by January. It's like, all right, because the grant funding was to start in January of this year. It's like, all right, so have you talked to the community center? Well, we can't talk to them. We hate each other. Basically, that's what's going on. So there was this back and forth between them on renting anything. It went on. It was basically unsolvable, right?
Yeah.
And we're short time, right? We have to do stuff. So Alex and Tom got involved to try and broker some kind of deal so they could go forward
Okay.
on space, on leasing, on renting, on cost, all of that stuff that had to be done before you could do anything as far as furniture purchasing, hiring an assistant librarian. Otherwise, you'd be crammed in that little smaller space.
And that grant is going to go through. This isn't one of the grants that's being.
No, it's been awarded.
It was
It's already
already
been awarded.
but Trump at one point had put a
It's been awarded, and the part-time librarian has also been hired.
Well, I understand
The
that,
money.
but when President Trump came in, he did put a halt to all grants, and then he lifted that on.
This was before that.
Before that.
But
So the
isn't
money
it-
arrived before that.
Oh, the
I
money
don't-
is actually in the bank?
I don't think it is.
No.
I don't think, because we would have seen that.
Month, I think it says in their little.
No,
And I don't,
they were.
Okay, you're sure about that?
I'm not sure.
So
Yeah.
I guess I'm not sure about it now, but the way it was presented to us is that it was already all set by that was early January.
I'm not even
Yeah.
sure that, is it federal money?
Yes, it
It's
is.
federal money, and it
But
was the federal grants that were.
Well, it's federal money, but it's managed through a state program.
State program. Okay,
So
so, because I saw another name
Yes.
on the grant. I didn't
Yes.
It
even
might
see
be good
it,
to
the state on
just,
it.
somebody check and see if it's actually gone through, because the library doesn't have the money to cover the expenses.
Right.
well,
The furniture.
so right now they do. If anybody's bought anything without money in hand, that's their fault.
Okay.
So
It's more about, is there anything, any promises that were made by the library and the application? I mean, I haven't tried reading grants in a really long time, so I wouldn't even know how to interpret them now probably, but I actually would like to think that we all knew something about what the commitment has been to get the grant. And then when we do speak about the possibility of that this is an expectation that the equipment and the things paid for by the grant will be used for many years or for some period of time.
I think
That
the
we're
grant
committing
was to get whatever they needed to put the program in place.
Well, then
right?
there's an expectation that it will be
continue.
ongoing.
Right.
Right, but whether the
Yes.
grant says that or not,
I don't know, but see, that's
Most-
part
most
of that
of- most
interesting
grants-
thing.
It's anecdotal. Most grants have an O&M tail on them. Like, if I'm going to give you 60 grand to do this, you can do it for these 9-month periods, but you're committing to
You're committing to something.
keeping this going for at least 2
You
years or
are
24
committed.
months.
So
or
maybe
36
we could,
months.
it would be good to find out, but this is the kind of thing that I thought it would just be good to have some way of getting more people involved.
So-
And it could be once you identify, you have, if they couldn't use the grant in the future, would that mean that their children's program would be,
Will they be sued for?
well, no,
Whatever.
that say because there are other spaces that could be used. And maybe if they use the town hall, the bottom of the church for a story hour, it might further their goal of bringing more children in because it would be a little more central.
Right.
I don't know,
Obviously, the more we throw this back and forth,
right?
we should figure out a way to set something up probably
So
a week before.
How
town
about
meeting.
if we set something up with the idea that the more people who know, and this may not always work short term, probably there's more support for it and more ideas
Right,
will
so
flow
that's
from
what
it.
I'm
So
thinking, that
hopefully,
it's
trying from the little I've picked up, I would appreciate that.
Sure.
And it wouldn't be, it's not like it would be saying that you didn't support a library just because you wanted to talk about it. It's more, it's in the library's best interest and the town's
Let's
best
get
interest.
it out there.
Well, there has to, yeah, I'm right. And we have to get rid of
Get it out.
one thing that bothers me. This is not a binary discussion, right? This is not, we're getting rid of our library.
No,
Or have, but
No.
that, it's
No.
become that in a lot of discussions.
it
Like,
seems like
they want to
everything,
close the library. They don't like the library. That's not.
I don't
at
think
all.
that's it at all. I think we need to be really clear and when you're renting when you're sharing a space, if there are two parties sharing a space, frequently there are things that need to be ironed out. I don't think that's uncommon generally. So let's keep working on this. And I believe there are people, I know people who are just thrilled about this grant too. So
but
We've
that,
gotten a
I've
lot
heard
of
both.
letters
I've heard
that
both.
select board has
I've heard
but you,
both.
but you
supportive
do,
of it.
you do, those are letters from people who know and use the library and don't have any idea that there is anything different about the library, that they gotten a grant or anything like that. I mean, there's a lot of people in the town.
I really think knowing the statistics of youths over hopefully at least a year or something like that, what we actually know, Liza described it, is also just part of our picture of what we're paying for. Certainly we have to go through that with other things.
And it might help this, everything that comes up now in town, it becomes a controversy. You know, you're either for the fire department or you're against the fire department.
That's
You're either
not what
for this or that, against all the people involved in that or in that. And a town really shouldn't operate that way. It should be a discussion. What ideas have you got?
So let's,
Okay.
next select board meeting on the 19th,
Mhm.
let's do a informational session before the meeting at like 5 p.m.
So how
Followed
do
by
we
a
get
select board
that
meeting.
out? Lori? Can
Yeah,
send
Lori
it
will
on
send it
what?
out.
By email, maybe?
We'll send it out.
So
Definitely
we'll
send
limit
it
it
in the
to
Lori.
an hour.
We're gonna limit it to an
Send
hour.
it in the Lori thing, because I'm not on Facebook. The library is a Facebook.
Yeah, no,
page.
we'll have Lori
I
send
don't
it.
even, I can't even do
And it'll
that.
be on the post agenda. We
So
may
does that
need a bigger
seem
space.
reasonable? I mean, are you
I
all
like that.
okay with that? I mean, I don't want to push anything.
No,
I just-
I'm fine. It's believe
And
it's
I'm
been
just-
going on for 4 months.
I'm reading the article that Lyle Holiday provided for views of Dummerston, and it doesn't clarify that someone needs to stand up and ask for additional money. So that's what Todd thought they misunderstood.
So-
So that should be
And finding
clarified.
out about the actual commitment that the grant, what the grant commits them to might be a good thing for them to think about.
So, do you want to talk with the board of trustees?
The library board.
Yeah. And tell them that 2 weeks from today at 5 o'clock, we're going to have an information session for an hour. Have them gather up their data, intent of the grant, what do they have to do, usage count for the library. I don't need a tally with crosses, actual numbers. If they don't have the actual numbers, then just say you don't have them.
Give us a general idea.
Should we have this meeting at the community center in case people actually want to show up and have questions, and then it's not so far, we can just go and take a look. Would that be worth it?
We
Do you want it there?
Well, what would be the easiest for most people? I would say, could you do it at the Grange or that would be a neutral sort of spot, wouldn't it?
Well, it wouldn't be as relevant to the space. That way, if people are questioning like what's going to go on, they can just go walk right over and take a look. Because it was helpful during the meetings that me and Alex did with the community center board and the library board to actually just walk in and take a look at what they were doing.
It's true. It is, however, the middle of winter with a lot of cold storms and ice, and I'm not sure, I mean, it would be harder for the west side to come over, but it would be a little more central, perhaps. Unless you want to do it at an earlier time in a Saturday or something.
I'll call the Grange. It's the middle of town. It's basically like doing it here. It's just more space. So I'll call the Grange for 1700. We'll stay there and do our meeting afterwards
Yeah.
at 1800. So Alex or Tom, I mean, you guys have been talking to these folks. I think we should put together one deck of slides, right? So we can provide the numbers that we already have of what it's going to cost, et cetera, et cetera. We can add in what is the grant
Now,
require.
you say we, do you mean the library trustees?
The trustees and the select
Deck of
board.
slides together?
Yeah. So basically, I can put the deck together. We see the information, then we can bounce it off each other over the next 2 weeks. I don't want this and that. I don't want me to give my thing,
Yeah.
them to give their thing. It should all just be one presentation. We, when I say I, we don't have to get up there and say anything. It's their job to go through the deck. They'll have our numbers, our budget numbers, what they asked for, what we're giving them, what the out years are going to cost. They'll have all that in front of them, and that's going to be then their chance to sell their story. But what they need to include in there, just amongst 5 people sitting here, 7 people, there's a lot of questions, right? Usage, in town, out of town, individual users, not
Just
multiple
trying to
times.
say there.
Right.
My only concern is that not enough people will show up to engage. Can we make sure that BCTV films it so that people can go back and look at it at a time that works for them, in case we don't get a lot of turnout?
I mean, 'cause they're going to be there anyway for the 6 o'clock meeting, so we'll just make them come out earlier.
Can you
If yeah, possible.
Can you make sure that the board, and especially Dina, doesn't see this as an attack on her? Because it's not an attack. It's a attempt to get the information out to more voters so that they can know what's going on.
Yeah, Dina should be working with and for the board of trustees. That's how it works. So that group, them, the board of trustees and the librarian, can put together their information.
Right.
We will add our information to that, and then the board of trustees can get up there and do what they've been.
Right.
They're
But
elected, right?
Just have gotten the feeling from the Commons article and from various other things that there is this feeling of, people don't like the library, they want to get rid of it. If they don't support the grant, they don't support the library, they don't support little kids, and then, conversely, it's like, there's a lot of money here at stake, and there shouldn't be that feeling of being attacked because,
I think there have been some personality challenges.
yeah, that's not the
on
town.
both sides,
Yeah.
both with the library and with the community center,
Yeah.
and to the point where the library board has asked Dina not to participate in these meetings because of these conflicts that come up. It's really unfortunate that it's such a small town.
It's a small
we can't
building.
all be
It's a small building
on the
with
same page.
multiple uses.
And it always was a sort of friendly, small place
It's
that
hard.
is a nice part of town.
Would you alert the community center by whatever way is?
Yeah,
You
we'll
know
let
how
them
to
know.
do that, right? Let them know, please.
At this point.
I don't know who it would be.
Well,
Be Randy.
Randy.
Okay.
We'll let them know.
Thank you.
Everybody will know as much as we can. We're not going to go door to door, but we'll let the
Well,
board
you
put out a
know.
letter.
I mean, that's
We'll make sure the
fine.
community center's involved,
Yeah.
so they can be there.
I mean,
Because again,
we're aware of
what I don't want. I do want a fairly tight agenda for this. I do not want this to turn into 25 minutes discussing the lease between the community center and the library.
Right.
That's.
That's
I don't want to waste anybody's time on that right now. I just want them to present the information. It's an informational meeting. It's not persuasive.
Right.
It's not, this is what we want. This is why we should, just information.
No, well then, if it's an informational meeting, will it go beyond the library? Will be an opportunity for questions about the budget, we've often done a pre-town meeting.
Not in an hour. Probably not. I mean, the libraries can take up an hour at least. Well, it's going to take up exactly an hour.
Not if we say it's got a half hour.
That's true. When are people going to get their town reports? Because if they don't have their town reports, there's not going to be any,
Can't pick your time.
nobody's going to have anything to look at.
Exactly.
But a half hour might be pushing the question.
Okay, stop.
It sounds a bit tight to me.
Yeah.
A half hour.
Yeah.
I think it should. I really think it should focus just on the library. And if we have 15 minutes left at the end, maybe we take a break. Let's not rush it. If that's the whole point of the meeting, I think we'd get too distracted if we try to open it up to other stuff. That's my point of view.
We could start our meeting at 6:30. Give the pre-town meeting. I mean informational meeting an hour and a half. Are there other issues in the budget that people are gonna wanna hear about? Fire department?
I mean, there's no way to know. I mean, so unless they've been following it online.
Unless they have the
Until they
token in front of them,
Yeah.
the report in front of them.
Until
they're
they
not
get the
gonna-
town report, they're not gonna know, right?
So
So,
it's kind of a
And
wasted
if you would,
time.
Todd, if you would at the beginning just say something, about meetings being, everybody being respectful and,
I've already published guidance on that.
I know you have,
We.
It doesn't
we-
hurt to,
Yes, there will be.
just mention.
In fact,
Well, do we want Cindy
Cindy will
to,
just run it.
do we want
I'll
Cindy
ask
to
her if
run
she'll
it?
come run it.
Yeah.
And then she can introduce it and
Okay.
run it the way it should be run. Good point. Let me add her to my list. This is going to come up again later, a little bit in new business. I mean, one of the, I can talk about it now. There's like 5 things that we need to work on, that I'd like to work on over the course of the next year. And one of them is the community center and library situation, right? Is what are options? There's a bunch of them. They could have the big room. Do we want to end the 401c? All of these things, and community centers aware of this.
Or the
right?
middle room. I mean,
Or the middle.
they've got the smallest one now.
Well, the 2 front are the same size.
Are they actually things?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're identical.
Oh, so it really isn't the smaller room. It's always referred to as the smaller room.
Yeah, because it seems smaller because you can't see the
Because they've
open
got
space.
the stairway on one of them and the bathroom cutting into the other one. That's why. I was trying to picture it and
Right.
figure out where.
So over the course of the next year, maybe before the next budget talks, maybe something will change.
Mhm.
So we'll have somebody working that who wants to work it.
So on a different subject, I haven't been doing as much sort of organizing of your stuff that comes back.
Mhm.
Would it make sense if we see something coming through that isn't, the last minute isn't on the agenda, or something that hasn't been done that we notice, would it make sense? I'm not the assistant, but I do stuff in the office when you need it. I could show up to occasional meetings and say, this hasn't been addressed, because there've been a few things that have slipped through that had to be signed or whatever. Would you mind if I did that? It would just make it easier than, like 9 o'clock in the Monday morning, something has to be sent in, it hasn't been signed or whatever. Or we just,
Yeah, it's fine.
That's fine.
I can stop you.
Or we usually set the agenda on Friday mornings before the meeting. So,
Friday morning before the next Wednesday.
yeah.
Yeah,
So like tonight's meeting, the agenda was basically set by Todd on Friday.
right.
But you don't work Friday, right?
I do work Friday, but it's not like, you don't have an assistant, so you don't have somebody that is purposely, making sure that these things are caught.
Right.
But sometimes, even though Lori sends emails, things don't always get caught, and we may not know it until Wednesday morning, or anyway, it wouldn't come up, I don't think, that often, unless you wanted more input. But it's not like we're not sending you stuff we know about. It's like something will
That's right.
come, and none of you have much time, so you can't come in and check, like go through stuff.
Right.
Anyway.
You have to stay, once you're here,
I have to
lock the door. You gotta stay for the whole thing.
Well,
No, you don't.
I'm perfectly happy
All right.
to give an
No, it's very
opinion on
good.
anything
And
you
we'll-
want.
We'll schedule an informational meeting. Like I said, Alex, if you want to talk to them, they can contact me directly. We can just work on this. I could just do it if you want.
Yeah.
I'll just contact. Who's Lyle?
Well,
Okay. I will get with her and explain it, what we're trying to accomplish. Okay.
I think we're dismissed.
We're dismissed now. All right, road performance report.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
The form is somewhere in there. We need to sign it. So basically, the mileage report has to go to them so they can update the maps. And the only change on that, I think it's maybe new business or things to take care of. They removed what we discontinued last year, the
Okay.
point something miles. That's the only change to our class 1 through class 4 roads.
It should be a highway folder.
yeah, highway report.
Oh, it is under the highway folder.
Yeah.
I never put it in the right place.
Yeah.
And so they discontinued And all the documents from the minutes and the signatures from the lawyer are in here. They discontinued .072 class 3 roads, which drops us down to 50.4 class 3. There were no other changes, nothing in class 1, class 2, or state highway. And all the documents. So it says signatures of select men or people. I don't know if they want us to squeeze all 5 signatures on there, but I guess we will.
Okay.
Or 4 since Tom's
So
not
do
here.
we, so I'll make a motion that we approve and sign the, what is that, the annual road?
Certificate of highway mileage.
Certificate
I'll
of highway.
second that.
All right, any further discussion? Did anybody discontinue any roads that we're not aware of? All right, all those in favor of signing the certificate of highway mileage for a year ending February 10th, 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And all those against? All right, there's a thing down there, and
Just sign.
it's a signature, so we've got a number, just sign wherever you want to sign in there. It's a John Hancock situation. VTrans grants and annual financial package. That's also in the highway folder. It's, for the most part, it's going to be a Lee thing.
It's gonna be a Lee thing, but I don't think it's due for a little,
Till April.
yes,
Mhm.
yeah, so,
And so we'll have a chance to look at that some more.
yeah.
Open bids for new truck. We only got one. We're not going to open it.
Right.
We're going to wait to hear from Lee to see if there's more coming. So we'll leave it. But whoever wrote this from Ford of Claremont has exceptional penmanship. I'd like to add that note into the record. And cemetery mowing, we didn't get any bids.
Really?
So we've already budgeted the money. So at some point we'll find someone to do it
Right.
within the confines of that money.
Well, we technically got one bid from
We do have a bid.
Brett, who's been doing it for years.
That's right.
But
So
that's,
nobody
again, the
else-
only one. But, I mean, I don't know if Lee set a deadline of tonight or not.
All right. I'll get with him. Truck, mowing. See what else is on there. All right. Correspondence for information. Anybody have any questions on there? I might, if I can find some time during the day. VLCT does a lot of this training, like grant writing, basic grant writing. It's during the day when I'm working. But that'll come up again in a minute. So any other items on there that anyone has any questions about?
The only concern I had was our wonderful president with his setting up his blockage of money for transportation. I was looking at the oil, and 80% of our oil comes from Canada. So if he puts a hamper on that, our oil budget might be shot out of the window.
That may be true. I noticed,
about that as well.
speaking of which, the 2 diesel bills in there, did you look at them? So the one on the 21st of January, the fuel is $3.33.83. So $3.34 a gallon. The one on the 28th, it was $3.18 a gallon. So there's a 15% drop over the course of 1 week, which is a little crazy. So it seems like it's going to get a little volatile
Well,
through Roberts.
It's been volatile.
Yeah. Right. So we'll see what happens with the budget. We did plan on that. We'll see what happens. The correspondence for discussion or action. I don't think. We added the the listers.
Yeah.
So the listers have finished their work. There are no appeals to their findings for the year, and so they need us to certify that that's the fact. So we will sign this, and then it's going to be attested and witnessed by the town clerk tomorrow.
okay.
So I'll make a motion, we sign the certificate that there's no appeal or suit pending on the lister's form PVR 4155. You don't have to say that whole thing, that we sign that.
I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of signing the certificate of no appeal for the lister, say aye.
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 All those against? Guess we can get that sign out of the way. Salmon, Brook, Erosion, they're revising the design.
Wait,
Oh, go ahead.
before you go, I'm looking for that letter from Jody Normando. Did we want to talk about that?
It's coming up.
Oh,
It's in the section.
okay.
So Salmon, Brook, Erosion, I talked to them last week. They're revising the design and there's going to be a geologist visit in the spring. So we can probably take this off the agenda until
Okay.
April. I noticed the ethics liaison appointment to the state, but that was made last meeting, wasn't it? Isn't it your wife?
Mhm.
For the minutes?
But we got the email from Lori that we can't do that.
Ooh.
It has to be a select board member, or it could be like the town clerk or the treasurer, but it
Town
can't.
employee.
A
Town
town
employee.
employee. It can't
Okay.
be.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I was trying to save you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right. Do we have a timeline on it? Are they angry with us?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm here.
No, a timeline on it.
Oh, sorry. I was like, yes, I am.
Supposed to be done the end of January.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Unless you
I'll
want
do
to
it.
do it.
I'll do it.
Okay, so I make a motion we sign Paul
Okay.
Adler as the ethics liaison to the State of Vermont Ethics Commission.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? All right. All those in favor of appointing Paul Adler to the ethics liaison, say aye.
Aye.
All right. So I'll email Lori.
Okay.
I don't know what information she needs from you. I don't know if she needs address or
Yeah,
not,
I don't know.
and let her know. All right, Rural School Community Alliance. That's Jody's letter. I read it. It's interesting. I don't know whether or not we want to join it or not. I mean, I think more information is needed, probably, unless somebody has more depth than I've got from her letter.
Yeah, I was just saying more information, I think, is, yeah.
I wasn't comfortable
All right.
simply endorsing it.
Okay. So, I will get with Jody and we'll talk about it. And I'll put together something, a one-pager on what I think are the pertinent details and get her to agree with it, and then we'll look at it next meeting.
And to give people background, there's been a bit of anxiety since Act 46 that there would be loss of local control of our schools, which has happened, and that further down the line there's consolidation and closing of schools, especially schools like ours. So that's the impetus for this. So I agree that I would like to look a little bit more into any sort of liability it would put us into sign, or anything that it would require from us. But generally speaking, I'm interested in it. But I agree that we should find out a little bit more of the detail.
Yep.
And then come back and discuss it.
Yep, sounds good. I'll probably bounce things off you when I'm talking to Jody too. I've not written my resignation letter for Windham Regional Commission. I'll do that this week or next week, and we'll find a new appointee at some point.
When
So
you
we'll
said
table
time,
Yeah, I just don't.
yeah, it's not some
No,
philosophical.
it's interesting actually. So we'll see if someone else wants to do it.
I have one other thing on new business.
Fire away.
Okay, under new business, I've been in touch with the farm, Scott's Farm,
Yep.
and they have agreed to donate the space for a tag sale, a townwide tag sale,
Right.
that I will be coordinating with him. It'll be sometime in July,
All right.
and we're gonna send out advertisements, basically, that, you know, if you have stuff you want to get rid of,
Yep.
the proceeds would go to the fire department for the tag sale.
Nice.
So, Paul, why do it through the town and not fire department? Because the fire department's a separate nonprofit where people can get tax write-offs. I don't know if it's quite the same if it's a town sale.
It's a town-wide.
Townwide, sure.
You know, people
But I think
have
that-
things in their house or their barn or their, you know, that they'd like to donate.
But you want to do it under the auspices of the fire department.
I'd rather see it done under the auspices of the volunteer fire department. I think that would be cleaner.
Okay.
You know, if I'm donating some stuff to it, which I would certainly plan to do, and I can think of all kinds of things, I'd rather do it with the proceeds going to the fire department than the town of Dummerston.
Oh, yeah, I mean, all the proceeds would go to the fire department.
So do you want to get together with their auxiliary and tell them what you know?
I already have.
Okay, and have them.
Yeah,
So, and you may be part of the
Yeah.
auxiliary,
yeah.
at least for a while.
Or I'll be working
Sure.
with them. I'm not,
Right.
I don't want to be part of the auxiliary because I want to be anonymous from it.
Okay.
Want to be able to vote. But I just wanted to bring that up.
Yep, that's excellent. The health officer paperwork, which is apparently me, I think is in one of those
I
folders.
saw it, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need
Um,
to sign anything?
I don't. No, we didn't sign it. No, because it's by default the
No.
chair of the select board.
Exactly.
We would have to vote on it if we get someone else to do it.
There was a letter from David Baxendale resigning.
But there was a question whether we had appointed Erin Bristol.
Whether she still lives in
Still
town.
lives in town. Have we figured that out?
No.
Because if she's still, I mean, we appointed her last year.
Yep.
So if she's still in town, she's still the health officer.
Is that Bristol, like Travis Bristol?
I'm sure it's some relation, but
I'll talk with Lori. If she's still in town, we should just get hold of her and make sure she's still aware. If she's not in town, then it would revert to me.
exactly.
Not someone else.
Right.
So that'll be something else may or may not add at town meeting as far as vacancies just to discuss.
Mhm.
Health officer. We got our ethics person. Windham Regional Commission. The other new business I sort of wanted to bring up, just to think about, is let's talk about projects for the year. It'd be nice to work on the roads and the speeding, which constantly comes up, which you're already working on,
Right.
and see what happens, and maybe follow up on what things can we do to reduce speeding. Community center, library. At some point, we're gonna have to come up with some ideas amongst everybody on what we want to do moving forward. Right? Do we want to change the status? Do we want to change the lease? I don't know what it is, and that's something that may require a meeting with the town. It's like, what does the town want here? Does the town want A, B, or C? Here are various options. What other options do people want? And then it can be discussed, and maybe something changes. Drainage rights, I want to move to the spring because I can't really see the road.
Yeah.
So let's take that off. And Paul's like, are you going to talk about it this week? 'Cause I'm going to be out of town. I'm like, I'm definitely going to talk about it while you're out of town. But we'll get there in the spring and look at it. And the other thing was grants, town grant writing. I don't know who has time to learn about grants. I know Charlotte used to do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So those are things just to consider as sort of yearly projects that we might want to look into. But nothing needs to be decided now. Drainage rights we're moving for unfinished. All right. Anything else?
Grange lunch at
Oh, Grange
Town meeting.
lunch. Yes. So did the email come to all of us?
yes.
All right. So do we just want to tell the Grange that we do want them to provide lunch?
Mhm.
Because no commitment from us. They charge for it.
Yeah.
So
Do you want? You're going to contact them regarding our informational meeting anyway.
Yeah.
So if you email Larry back, you can just say yes to lunch.
yep, I'll take care of both of those. And if for some reason we can't get the Grange that day, which is unlikely, for the meeting, we'll just move to the community center.
Yeah.
Because based on the last meetings, when we talked about the library, this room wasn't big enough then. So, all right, and then the joint Putney meeting is going to be next week at 6:00 here. They want to talk about the gravel pit. I can't remember what else is on the agenda.
And just the gravel pit. Yep.
So that's a special select.
Yeah,
board
they want to have a dual meeting. Do we need BCTV here or not?
No, we haven't in the past.
Yeah, so we don't need you next week, Mr. Mann. But we'll need you early on the 19th. And we'll let you know where it's going to be. That'd be great. Thank you. And then on the 19th, obviously the meeting will be at 5 at a location to be determined, followed by the 6:00 select board meeting. Town meeting's March 4th, and another regular meeting on March 5th.
Yep.
That's all I've got.
So question on the warrants. Do we go ahead and sign the warrant for the Prospect Hill Fund,
Yes.
even though it's pending that?
Yep. Chris will hold it until he gets the paperwork. Anyone have anything else?
Do we know if anyone took out a petition for the 3-year select board?
I don't think so, because the sample ballot's sitting over on the table and there's nobody listed.
So that'll be on the select board's agenda to
Yeah, we'll-
appoint somebody.
The incumbent must stay until replacement is found. All right,
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that. All right, thanks Tom and Chris for hanging out.